My father's voice echoed through the banquet hall, accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award as I stared at the evidence proving he never had cancer. He coughed once, deliberate, theatrical. Everyone clapped. My hand stayed clenched around the stem of a wine glass, pressure whitening every knuckle. I was 24, and I'd wasted 6 years caregiving a man I thought was dying. 6 years of spooning soup, rescheduling my future, Googling lymphomas at 3 a.m. And now I stood beside a podium, 1 foot from the man who lied to every donor, patient, and family member in this room. They called him a warrior, a mentor, a miracle. I called him Dad. His name, Don Benton, glowed on the banner behind him. Gold letters on black velvet. God, he loved a stage. My eyes drifted to the front row. Erin, my stepmom, sat stiff, hands in her lap like she was posing for a funeral portrait. Not proud, not shocked, just silent. And in my purse, a flash drive, 512 megabytes of truth. I didn't breathe when the mayor said his name. Didn't blink when Dr. Owens praised Don's, quote, remarkable resilience during chemo, because I already knew. I knew there were no oncology appointments, no filled prescriptions, no damn diagnosis, and I could still hear the rehearsal, the breathy, hollow cough from his study upstairs, practiced, staged, rehearsed like a monologue. I found the file 3 nights ago, hidden on our shared desktop, mislabeled as tax_records_2021. It was an MP3, 47 seconds long. Him clearing his throat, coughing, trying it again, then laughing to himself. When I played it through my earbuds, I felt like the world tilted under me. The next morning, I texted Kelsey, "Was my dad ever a patient at your hospital?" She sent back one word, "No." Then, "Why?" "Something weird happened when he came in last summer. I'll call." We talked for 2 hours. By the end, I had her login, her med school access, and a plan I never wanted to need. My father wasn't sick. He was the disease. So now I waited, cold and composed, while applause rang out and his cheeks flushed from praise. The mic waited at the side of the stage, and I wasn't sure yet whether I'd walk away from it or take it. The applause finally died down. My father stepped from the podium, patting his chest like the speech had winded him. A woman in a lavender shawl brushed past me, whispering, "He's such an inspiration." I gave a tight smile. Didn't trust my voice. He returned to the head table, face flushed, sipping ginger ale like it was champagne. Erin leaned in, said something low. He nodded, eyes scanning the crowd for more admirers. I slipped outside. The banquet doors thudded shut behind me. Cold air slapped my face like a warning. The flash drive weighed heavy in my purse. I pulled out my phone. Kelsey's text was still at the top. Checked again. No chart. Not even a referral. "Are you okay?" I wasn't. 3 days earlier, I'd driven Erin to her dentist. While she was inside, I snooped, quietly. Like always, my dad's treatment folder lived in the desk drawer, labeled Kids Art Projects. Of course. Inside, 3 fake invoices, none with billing codes, 1 bottle of expired ibuprofen, a sticky note, "Dr. Owens lunch Thursday? Cancel?" and a receipt for golf gloves. From the same week he claimed his white blood cell count had tanked. The lies weren't clever, just practiced. I snapped photos, sent them to Kelsey, then called every pharmacy in a 40-mile radius. No record. That night, I stayed up until 4 a.m. tracing appointment logs. All ghosted, canceled. Some marked "patient never existed." Still, I smiled through family dinner. I said grace. I washed the dishes. Because if I flinched too early, he'd know. And tonight, this was my finish line. But the closer I got, the more I felt it. His control still wrapping around my ribs like a belt. I leaned against the cold railing outside the banquet hall, eyes shut. A car pulled up. I didn't look until I heard a voice I hadn't heard in months. "Kels?" She stepped out, her coat slung over her arm, hair pulled back tight. "I couldn't let you do this alone." I almost cracked. Almost. Instead, I reached into my purse and handed her the flash drive. "If I don't go up there in 10 minutes, I said, "I want you to play it." She didn't ask what was on it. She just nodded and walked inside. I stepped back inside 5 minutes later. The air was warmer now, thick with wine and roast beef and small-town flattery. Don Benton's table overflowed with admirers. A city councilman shook his hand like he was announcing a Senate run. I moved quietly. A waiter offered me a refill. I declined. My stomach couldn't handle it. At the far wall, a slideshow played. Don at the town parade. Don at the youth football banquet. Don with a shaved head and a blanket on his lap. Photoshopped, I realize now. The hospital bracelet in the shot was dated wrong. He never even tried to make it believable, because no one ever questioned him. Laura. Dr. Owen's voice broke my thoughts. He smiled kindly, approaching with a plate in hand. Didn't know you'd be here. I forced a smile. Wouldn't miss it. He looked down at his food, then back up. Your dad asked me to write something for the program, said I'd been part of his care team. I swallowed hard. Did you? Of course, he said, shrugging. Didn't realize it would be printed word for word. Felt a little strange. I nodded slowly. What'd you write? He chuckled. Just a general statement. Supportive, but vague. I assumed he was really sick. Everyone did. He didn't say it, but I felt it in his tone. Not anymore. Thanks for being here, Dr. Owens. I said it softly. He blinked at my tone. Before he could ask, I turned away. A voice boomed from the mic again. The mayor. And now, one final toast. To a man whose courage redefines what it means to serve a community. The crowd turned, clapped again. Don rose, waving a hand, humble as a preacher. I walked toward the podium. Kelsey stood near the AV table, nodding once. The flash drive was already loaded. Excuse me, I said. My voice was calm, louder than I'd meant. The mayor turned, startled. I'd like to say something. I stepped onto the platform. Someone clapped, confused. Don froze, smile half-formed. Some of you know me, I began. I'm Laura, Don Benton's daughter. I reached into my pocket, held up a small paper. And before we all toast his survival, I think there's something you deserve to hear. Then I plugged in the flash drive and pressed play. It started with a throat clear, then a second one. Lower, longer, almost theatrical. In the recording, my father muttered, "Too fake, try raspier." Then another cough, then laughter. The room fell silent. Chairs creaked, forks froze midair. Don Benton, civic hero and cancer survivor, stared at the speaker like it had bitten him. The track played through twice before I stopped it. I didn't move, didn't flinch. I found that file in his office, I said, titled Tax Records 2021. Just sitting there. No password, no shame. I scanned the crowd. A woman near the front covered her mouth. Someone whispered, "That's not real, is it?" I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. Kelsey had helped me color code every document. I held up the first page. This is his pharmacy record. I turned it to face the crowd. No prescriptions filled in over 2 years. Not even ibuprofen. Dr. Owens stepped forward, face pale. I had no idea. You're not the only one, I said. But now you do. Another paper. Here's his appointment log. The oncologist he claimed to see never had a patient named Don Benton. I held up the last page. A statement from Dr. Owens, written at my request. It says clearly, he was never part of any oncology care team. Gasps. A soft, "Oh my God," from the third row. I looked directly at my father. He hadn't moved. His hands were flat on the table like he was bracing for a storm. You told me you had stage 2 lymphoma the day I got into Johns Hopkins, I said. My voice didn't shake. I deferred a year, then another. I stayed. I took care of you. I dropped everything. A few people started whispering. Tonight, you stood here and thanked everyone for their support. I stepped closer to the mic. You never thanked me. The silence had weight now. Shameful. Trembling. Don opened his mouth, but no words came. I turned slightly, angling my body back toward the stunned audience. And if any of you still think he's brave, I said, I've got 6 more folders and a Google Drive link that says otherwise. Then I stepped down. The flash drive still glowed blue in the port. And Don Benton? He just sat there, crumbling. Nobody clapped. Nobody moved. It felt like the moment after a crash. Air full of dust, time frozen. My father stared down at his untouched plate like it might offer a script. His mouth opened once, then closed. Aaron reached for his arm. He pulled away. Kelsey stepped up beside me, slipping a hand on my back like an anchor. "You okay?" she whispered. I nodded. But the truth was, I felt nothing. Not triumph, not relief, just the echo of 6 stolen years bouncing in my ribs. The mayor finally spoke. Quiet. Awkward. "I think we'll take a short break." The mic was off before he finished. Guests trickled toward the exits, whispering like it was a funeral. The award still sat on the podium, gleaming. Unclaimed. Dr. Owens approached again, eyes wider this time. "Laura, I had no idea he'd used my name like that." "I know," I said. He looked toward Don. "What will you do next?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. What do you do when the lie collapses and the truth leaves a crater? The first headline hit that night. Hometown hero or Hall of Shame? It came from an online local, one of those whispery digital news blogs. They'd posted a clip. Kelsey's clip, my voice steady, the audio, the printouts. The flash drive had done its job. The real avalanche started the next morning. My phone buzzed nonstop. Classmates, former teachers, a second cousin I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. The radio played a segment about it on my drive to the pharmacy. When I stepped inside, the girl at the counter stared, then nodded. "Good for you," she said. Don was removed from the town's Parks and Rec committee by noon. His charity board voted to, quote, pause public affiliation. And Erin? She moved into the guest room. I only know that because she texted me. Just 2 words. "I knew." I stared at the screen a long time, then typed back, "Why didn't you stop him?" Her reply took an hour. Because he would have made me the next lie. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because maybe I already had been. By Thursday, the committee letters were official. 3 resignations, 2 statements, 1 revoked award. The banquet photo still hung in City Hall. Don, smiling, hand raised. But someone taped a sheet of printer paper over it. Just said under review. I walked past it on my lunch break, coffee in hand. Didn't stop, didn't need to. Justice, it turned out, didn't come with sirens. It came slow, sharp, like a page torn out loud. That night, I got a voicemail. His voice. "Laura, it's your father." Pause. Deep breath. "I don't know how we got here. Call me, okay?" I deleted it. Not out of spite, but because I already knew the answer to his question. "We got here because I stopped believing you." The next day, a padded envelope arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside, the Civic Hero plaque, still gleaming, still engraved, and a yellow sticky note. "I don't deserve this, but you might." No name, but the handwriting was his. I held it for a long time, then slid it back inside. That Sunday, I sat with Kelsey on her apartment floor, sipping boxed wine, rerunning the audio one last time. "You could have gone nuclear," she said, "but you kept it clean." "I didn't want a war," I said. "Just the truth." She nodded. "You got it. Now what?" I looked out the window. The leaves had just started turning. "I think I'm leaving," I said. Kelsey blinked. "Like, town?" I nodded. I'd spent 6 years breathing in other people's needs, folding my life to fit their crisis. Now I wanted air. And just like that, something shifted. Not relief, not closure, just space. 3 days later, I got the email. A full scholarship offer from a medical program in Vermont. Anonymous donor. Recommendation signed by Dr. Owens. I stared at it for almost 10 minutes, then typed back 2 words. "I accept." And I swear, the second I hit send, it felt like my lungs unlocked. I'd been waiting to breathe again. Now I finally did. Packing was strange. Not sad, not sweet, just quiet. I folded jeans into boxes, labeled bins, donated everything that smelled like that house. The mug from his first chemo day? Gone. The sweater Aaron gave me that year I canceled my internship to drive him to fake appointments? Donated. I kept only one thing, the flash drive. It sat in a drawer next to my passport, a relic, not a trophy. On Friday, I visited the hospital where Kelsey used to intern. She waved me in from the lobby, clipboard in hand, ponytail messy. Same Kelsey, always in motion. "You really leavin'?" she asked. passing me a lab coat-shaped gift bag. Yeah, I said. End of the month. God, you'll be missed. People still talk about that night like it was a local legend. I raised an eyebrow. She smirked. Okay, maybe just me and like 6 nurses. But still. I laughed for the first time in days. Kelsey looked me over. You okay? I thought about that, then nodded. Yeah, finally. She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a manila envelope. You'll want this, she said. Inside, a printed Facebook thread, dozens of comments, under a post from Don Benton's account. I made mistakes. I hurt my family. I won't justify it. But I will say, I was wrong. About everything. I blinked. Below, someone had replied, Didn't you fake cancer? Don's response, Yes. And I lost the only person who ever stood by me because of it. Another comment, What would you say to her if she read this? He replied, That she was right. That she was braver than I ever was. I folded the printout, slid it back into the envelope. Didn't say anything. Kelsey leaned her head against my shoulder. You don't have to forgive him, she said. But you should know. He regrets it. I nodded once. And that was enough. Not to undo anything. But maybe to finally stop carrying it. 2 weeks later, I was gone. U-Haul packed. Apartment key turned in. The only thing I left behind was a yellow Post-it stuck inside the empty pantry. You don't get to rewrite me. The drive to Vermont took 2 days. Just me, 2 duffel bags, and a playlist Kelsey made titled, You're Free Now, Nerd. First night, I slept in a highway motel. Second night, under stars outside Albany, engine ticking like a heartbeat. I didn't cry when I crossed the state line. But I did grip the wheel harder. Like I was holding on to a version of myself I almost lost. Orientation was quiet. 10 students. A converted farmhouse turned lab space. And then, Kelsey. She transferred her residency. Said it was strategic and not at all a best friend ambush. I didn't argue. The first time I walked into class wearing scrubs with my own name stitched on the chest, I felt it. Like every lie, every cough, every staged story had burned off me. Now I was only mine. It was week 3 when Dr. Owens called. I stepped into the hallway, pressed the phone to my ear. Laura, he said, I didn't want to leave this in an email. My stomach clenched. What's wrong? He sighed. Nothing bad, just surprising. Then he told me. The scholarship? Wasn't from the hospital. Wasn't from an alumni fund. It came from a private donor. But the check was routed through a community trust with one strange note attached. For the girl who told the truth. I pressed my back against the cold hallway wall. That's all it said? I asked. That's all. And you don't know who? No, he said, then paused. But I have a guess. He didn't say the name. Didn't have to. Later that night, I pulled out the manila envelope again. Reread every word of that Facebook post. If you read this, she was right. Maybe he thought that was enough. Maybe he was trying to buy forgiveness. But I didn't feel bought. I felt seen. And maybe that was all I ever wanted. It rained hard the night I told Kelsey everything. We sat in the dorm kitchen, fluorescent lights humming, kettle whistling. I slid the envelope across the table, let her read it for herself. She didn't say anything for a while, just traced the printout with her finger like she was memorizing it. You think he meant it? She finally asked. I don't know. I poured the tea. The steam curled between us like a veil. But you're not going back? She said. No, I said. Even if he shows up on his knees with a notarized apology, I'm not going back? She smiled. Good. I took a sip. I don't need to forgive him. Then don't. But I think I needed him to know he didn't win. Kelsey leaned back. Oh, trust me, he knows. The next day, I got an email. Subject line, request for statement. Local press. They wanted a follow-up. A quote. Something to close the loop. I read it twice, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then I typed. The truth was never about revenge. It was about choosing peace over pretending. I hope others choose it too. Sent. That quote ran in the town paper 2 days later. Above the fold, next to a cropped photo of me from the banquet. And below it, a statement from Don. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope to earn humility. Kelsey clipped it and taped it to the inside of our fridge. Not for him, she said. For you. A week later, I bought a corkboard, tacked up the scholarship letter, my Johns Hopkins acceptance, and the first lab photo from med school. And right in the center, on a torn scrap of notebook paper, I wrote, "Your lie stopped here." I stared at it every morning before class. Not for motivation, not for anger, just to remember that my future had a name. And it wasn't his. Midterms hit hard. Flashcards covered every surface in our apartment. Even the toaster had a diagram of pediatric lymph nodes taped to it. One morning, I caught Kelsey using an anatomy model as a phone stand. "I'm innovating," she said, eyes bloodshot. We laughed until we cried. I hadn't laughed like that in years. Then, 2 weeks later, the letter came. Thick envelope. My full name, handwritten, in blocky, careful script. I opened it on the front steps. Cold breeze, brushing my knuckles. Inside was a photo. Of me. At the podium. Kelsey must have taken it. Back straight. Chin lifted. One hand braced on the mic. Whoever sent it had scribbled something on the back. "I watched you become someone the town will never forget. Thank you." No signature. But the postmark was from our hometown. I stared at it for a long time. Because no matter how far I ran, that moment, me standing there, voice sharp, the lie breaking open like glass, still followed me. And somehow, people weren't forgetting. They were watching. And they were grateful. I didn't tell Kelsey about the photo. Not right away. Instead, I pinned it beside the corkboard, right under the note that said, "Your lie stopped here." One night, around 1 a.m., I found her staring at it. She didn't say a word, just nodded. "Still weird," I said, being known for that. "You didn't break the story," she said. "You ended it." And maybe that's why it mattered. Because his lie had ruled everything. Our house, my future, my damn identity. Until I ended it with a flash drive and a microphone. 3 days later, I got an unexpected friend request. Aaron. Just the name. No message. No profile picture. I didn't accept. But I didn't decline either. Some doors don't need to be slammed shut. Some just stay closed. I was in the campus library when the voicemail came. Low whisper. Cracking static. "Laura, it's Dawn. I know you won't answer. I wouldn't either. But I need you to know the house is gone." I froze mid-highlight. His voice was slower than I remembered. Like someone reading from underwater. "They repossessed it last week. Erin's moved in with her sister. I'm staying at a friend's trailer until I figure out the VA stuff." Click. End of message. I didn't move. Just sat there, one thumb on the audio, one hand gripping my pen so hard it nearly snapped. Gone. The house where I patched drywall with my bare hands. Where I crushed ice chips for a man pretending to be too sick to chew. Where I stopped dreaming. Where he pretended to die, and I forgot how to live. Gone. That night, I stared out the dorm window. Watched students in coats rush across wet pavement. Everyone moving forward. Except him. Except everything he built on a lie. And part of me, just a small, dark part, felt the twinge of justice. Not joy, not spite. Just equilibrium. Balance restored. The next morning, a letter slid under my door. Typed. Clean. Just 4 lines. "Laura, I told lies. You told the truth. That means you won. I won't contact you again. Thank you for being brave when I wasn't." No name. No address. But the postmark again? Same as before. I burned the letter in a sink. Watched the edges curl, blacken, disappear. Some apologies don't need a frame. They need an end. Later, I mailed a single envelope to Erin's sister's address. No note. Just the civic hero plaque. Let him look at it one last time. Let it sit heavy. Truth doesn't always need revenge. Sometimes it just needs to echo. The plaque never came back. I checked the return address twice, just in case. Nothing. No text. No email. No late-night call pretending he accidentally dialed. Just silence. For once, it didn't feel manipulative. It felt final. Mid-December, I passed my practicals. Kelsey and I celebrated by splitting a cinnamon roll, the size of a steering wheel, and skipping our afternoon lecture. That night, she pulled out a gift bag. No occasion. No card. Inside was a t-shirt. Plain white. Black block letters. She did not stay silent. I laughed so hard I almost choked. "Wear it under your coat," she said. "Your armor." I wore it the next morning. Not for attention, just for me. We headed into a pediatric clinic that week, for early rotations. First kid I met was 6, wouldn't look me in the eye. Clutched a stuffed sloth with one arm and stared at the corner like it owed him money. I crouched next to his chair. "Hey," I said. "You don't have to talk if you don't want to. You just have to tell me if anything hurts." He nodded slowly, still silent. An hour later, as I was about to leave the room, he whispered, "You didn't talk a lot either." I paused at the door. "No," I said, "but I'm learning." He nodded. So did I. That night, I opened my laptop, started a new document, title line blank, cursor blinking like a dare. I typed, "This is how it ended," then deleted it. Typed again, "This is how I began." Better, because the story wasn't about a man who faked cancer anymore. It was about the woman who didn't let him erase her. Spring came late to Vermont. Snow clung to the gutters like it had something to prove. I walked to clinic that morning with frozen breath and warm hands, because for the first time, my gloves were new. Not borrowed, not patched, not handed down from someone else's emergency drawer. Mine. Class ended early. Kelsey and I stopped by the corner cafe, split a muffin, and tried to pretend we weren't two exhausted, half-frozen med students barely hanging on by caffeine and spite. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, froze. "What?" I asked. She turned the screen toward me. "Don Benton tagged you in a post." I stared at it. My stomach didn't twist. My hands didn't shake. Just curiosity. I tapped the notification. It was a short video, poorly lit, probably filmed on a borrowed phone. My father sat in a folding chair, face thinner, hair grayer, voice steady. "This is the last time I'll speak on this, Laura. If you're watching, you don't owe me a thing. I ruined that. But if anyone else needs to hear this, especially parents, don't build your house out of admiration. Build it out of honesty. Because lies collapse. And when they do, it's the truth that walks away standing. No tears, no begging, just words." Then he reached under the chair, pulled something out, held it up. The Civic Hero plaque. He snapped it in half. The screen went black. Caption read, "The truth wins. Always." I didn't share it, didn't react, didn't need to. It wasn't for me anymore. It was for everyone else still pretending. I closed the video, set my phone down. Kelsey watched me carefully. "You okay?" I nodded. "Good," she said, then added with a smirk, "because orientation's next week. They're gonna make us introduce ourselves in front of 60 people. I groaned. "Please tell me there's no icebreaker." "There always is. What if they ask if I'm related to Don Benton?" She grinned. "Then what are you gonna say?" I smiled. A small one, steady. "I'll say. Only on paper." I stepped onto the auditorium stage, nerves coiled tight under my ribs. First row, full of strangers. Back row, one familiar silhouette, just visible in the dark. Not Kelsey, not Aaron, not a professor. He shifted slightly, wore a coat too thin for spring. And when I met his eyes, I didn't flinch. The mic buzzed to life. A moderator smiled beside me. "Next up, we have Laura Benton, newest recipient of the Truth in Service Fellowship." I stepped forward, spoke 3 words. The silhouette leaned in. And I didn't stop. "My name's Laura Benton." The microphone carried my voice farther than I expected. I cleared my throat, glanced at the slide behind me. 1 photo, 1 line. A still of me holding the mic at the banquet. Caption, "Truth doesn't tremble." I saw him shift in his seat. The silhouette, Don. His hands were clasped in his lap, not folded, not fidgeting, just still. But this wasn't for him. It never had been. I came here to study medicine. But before that, I studied lies. I studied silence. I studied what happens when someone you love writes your story for you and gets every line wrong. A few heads nodded. One professor leaned forward, elbows on knees. I used to think the hardest thing was losing my dream. But the hardest thing is watching someone you love lie so well, they start to believe it. I clicked the remote. The screen behind me changed. Now a shot of a simple corkboard. The scholarship letter, the drive, the words, "Your lie stopped here." Truth, I said, doesn't always sound like thunder. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it sounds like your own voice for the first time in years. In the back row, Dawn looked down. Not ashamed. Not proud. Just small. "I don't need applause for telling the truth," I said, "and I don't need an apology from a man who spent years taking and calling it love." Silence stretched out. Respectful. "I'm here because someone lied, but I stayed because someone believed me." My eyes found Kelsey. Front row now. Beaming. "I'm here because I stopped being quiet. Because I stopped being scared." I clicked the final slide. A blank screen. White. Empty. "And now," I said softly, "I get to write the rest." Applause started slow. Gained speed. But I didn't stay for the full ovation. I stepped down, walked the side stairs, and slipped into the hallway. He was waiting. Not close. Not blocking. Just there. He looked older in the light. Smaller. We locked eyes. I didn't speak. Neither did he. Then I walked past him. No pause. No nod. And I never looked back. Not once. Because the story wasn't his anymore. It was mine. And I had pages to fill.